So let's start with the consultants and the questions. Well, obviously there are whole lots of myriads of perspectives we can take on the Internet of Things, but how will the Internet of Things, from a strategic consultant perspective, change the way we conduct businesses?
You know, we're not looking at that from a consulting perspective. We're looking at that, and that is digital, from a customer perspective.
Okay.
And I think what the big companies and the big industrial companies actually have to think through is how to digitally connect with their customers. You know, if you are a car manufacturer, what does your digital driver do for you? If you are a machine equipment builder, how do your machine operators use your machinery? Mm-hmm. And actually, that is what will change the German industry. And what we see already, it's a huge race for the data. We have seen the race for consumer data in the consumer business, and now we will see a race for industrial data in the industrial space. And whoever gets that data first will become the digital leader of industry.
Mm. Christian, what's your stance on that?
From my perspective, the question strategic is already gone.
Okay. In what sense?
The Internet of Things is there. So there is only one new strategic question, and that's the one, what is strategic in the Internet of Things for me as a firm to write my customers the right way? And the most, and even more important strategic question is how to identify the differentiator between me and my competitors.
Okay.
To really get the advantage, because having manufacturing, which is already internet linked, and you can switch your device on and you can order whatever you want just in a moment, this is more or less applicable and available everywhere. So you have really to think ahead. You have really to be ahead of the curve, and that's the challenge, and that's a strategic question from my point of view.
Mm. So is TRUMPF ahead of the curve, Klaus?
Yes, I think the IoT is a big issue. We need them on different levels. We have a sensor level to control the process of the production. We have the factory level to optimize the production. And we also have the cloud level to optimize all the services we need for the machines, because the machine itself is not enough in future to bring the values to our customers. We need a lot of services with this production systems. And IoT is a big chance to enhance new things on all these levels.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the term Industry 4.0 is a term coined in Germany, or Americans rather call it smart industrial production or whatever. But can you give us a good definition on what Industry 4.0 is? We'd be happy.
Yes, there are a lot of things we can tell. The easiest is just to bring the internet to the production, to the processes. This is one of this, but not because it's possible, because we need them to enhance new things the customers need. And if we bring value to the factories and have not only the site on the factory level, also on the transportation, on all the things around, on all the smart things, then this is Industry 4.0.
Okay. Marika, what's your perspective?
Well, I think it's actually a bit more. I mean, Industry 4.0 is not just how to bring the internet to the industry and their customers. I think it's actually how to connect all the industries. When we had the Web 2.0 revolution, it was basically revolutionizing how, for example, the retail interacts with his customers and added new services to it. Industry 4.0 basically will, for example, make sure that banks have to understand the industry and their processes to be able to connect better with them by, for example, reading the data of their machines and helping them financing. Industry 4.0 also means that the industry must understand the customers, their wishes, their dreams, their anticipated actions. So Industry 4.0 is actually connecting all industries, cross industries, B2B, B2C. I think we will see those things vanishing. They become less important because ultimately it's about understanding your customer needs in all aspects.
Frank, how is that affecting business models?
So
I think from our perspective, Industry 4.0 is really a subset of the digital transformation that is going on as a result of the digitalization. And every company, large, small, has to think about every connection point, every touch point with a customer and needs to redefine that and revisit their business model. Am I still reaching not only where the customer is today, but where the customer is going to be tomorrow? Where, how, and when the customer wants to interact with my products, with my services, am I reaching them there? How do I connect with them in new ways? How can I capitalize on that? I think the biggest risk is to just focus with the digitalization on an existing structure and process. And just to pick an obvious example, if you're manufacturing CDs, for example, it may not be the best idea to focus on digitizing your production process. You may just be accelerating the train to the abyss, or to use a different metaphor that I like, to build an escalator on the Titanic. It's not the right thing to do. You need to really look at it holistically, customer-centric, and then transforms in a fast way to meet those customer needs tomorrow.
That's a nice metaphor.
I think.
Never heard it. Talking about utilities. No, that was mean. That was obvious. Well, it's fair to say, I assume, that utilities have not always had the reputation of being particularly customer-centric. Mm-hmm. What changes through data streams now?
I think to add on that, of course, if a utility like ours has been working on the same business model for 50 years and has been successfully doing that, of course, where's the need for creativity? So, yeah. I mean, as you all know, that is fundamentally changing right now, not only because of digitalization, but a lot of other trends change the role of the customer. I mean, the number of PV systems on the roof, assists in the new role of our customers to become a prosumer. So for us, the challenge really is to find new business models that go in line with that trends and the changing roles in that system. And so digitalization is one more item that accelerates that particular need for new business models. So I think some of the utilities have understood that this change is happening, that we are in this transformation, and if we don't join that train or that train on the roof, there's going to be a time where we'll have to ask ourselves, are we still going to be around? So we're trying to change that. That's why we're here as part of the Coden community, yes, to show and give examples of what the future means for us as far as business models are concerned.
It's easily said, right? To find a new business model. How does it work? I mean, at least there must be some process, or is that intuitive?
The first thing you have to decide is whether you are able to develop new business models from within the company, or whether you're better off to find a new space where you put these little plants and make them grow. So for us, we've decided that it's better to start developing these projects outside of the corporate world, outside of the corporate processes that, even Drucker said a few years back, culture eats strategy for lunch. So if you have the best ideas and you keep them inside, the chances that you will succeed on new developments are very slim. So you take it, you put it outside, you work on a room, you get the right people together, fairly like startups, and you develop new projects, new services that in parts also cannibalize your existing system. And that's what we're doing.
Another great quote. I collect quotes today on this panel. Excellent. Drucker, we hadn't had Drucker so far. Salesforce obviously found its business model just at the edge when a new IT paradigm showed up, cloud computing. How is Salesforce now enabling new business models in the context of IoT?
If you're asking Salesforce, you're asking me, right? Because you were looking the other direction.
We certainly have opinions about it.
So fundamentally, the technology we provide today, we collectively call the customer success platform, because fundamentally we deliver customer success and innovation to our customers. We help them transform. And just to give you a couple of tangible examples in that, which really have to do with helping our customers make their customers successful. In the startup world, we help startup innovate faster and get out of the gate fast. If you look at RoboChop back there, for example, at the one end of the spectrum, what we do is, the RoboChop app that you're using here is built on a Salesforce technology called Heroku. And there are 4 million apps built on Heroku today which serve a similar purpose. You build something very fast, you iterate on it in an agile fashion, it's very easy to use, it scales to unpredictable usage patterns. And you get going very quickly as a startup. At the other end of the spectrum, we work with established corporations, and I'll give you the example of Philips, who years ago started a digital acceleration initiative to really get ready with their digital strategy. And today they started to connect their consumer products, a living Internet of Things, or we call it Internet of Customers scenario. They now connect things like their computer MRI devices in the hospitals, which create automatically service tickets in our, we call it Service Cloud, so the customer service application, and routes it to the right people. And that's the back end of RoboChop, just to drive that home. If you look at what we're doing here, and you can look at it upstairs at our booth actually, we're taking the live data from the robot, so this is behind the scenes at RoboChop, and the robots chat into our collaborative enterprise social network and tell you exactly when a cube is produced. They can tell you if the wire gets too hot, and you can do preventive maintenance in a smart service kind of way. So we cover the whole spectrum, and at the end of the day, it's about customer success, it's about customer engagement, it's about transforming to get ready for this digital age. That's what we do.
Frank, the other Frank, right?
The other Frank.
He's also called Frank. I can have him. Frank, so, new business models from a consultant's perspective, how you look onto that?
If you look what's going to happen, it's all about me. Not about you, it's about me.
Okay.
That is where the business is. And me, that means if I want to go to work, I'd like to have a car driving up. The car communicates to all the other cars on the road, knows where the traffic jam is and gets me there. And I don't need to be behind the steering wheel. That's about me.
Okay.
If I have a jawbone, I'd love to have jawbone 100 million, well, let's say 1 million heart attacks on file. And Jawbone tells me, Frank, your heart attack is coming, go to hospital. It's about me. There is a lot of business opportunity if you start to think Internet of Things services through the eyes of the customer, through my eyes. Mm-hmm. I want all that smart digital stuff from you as well. You can have all my appliances and all my data from my fridge and from my oven and from a washing machine, as long as you give me the electricity bill I want. So you can have it. And that is what's going on. It's about me, and all that digital stuff out there will need to be configured that it's serving me. That's what's going on, and that's a big disruptive change. And if you think it's about you, or if you think it's about your old business model, unfortunately, you will be gone.
Innovator's dilemma?
Well, call it digital race.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It started.
Well, all your companies have been startups at some point. For some of them, it's longer ago. For some of it,
I'd say
not as long ago. But Codan is all about bringing startups together with established companies. Might they be entrepreneurial? Might they be huge global companies? We had on the panel before, we already had the debate. Well, I wanted to ask you the same question, basically. How is it possible that you integrate that spirit, that innovative spirit, those brilliant ideas into your business models? How can that work?
If the older economies and the new economies work together, we can create new ideas, and we need a lot of new ideas. Because if we just think in one world, it doesn't depend, even it's the old or the new world, it's not enough. Because our customers have needs, they want to earn money, and it's a big issue for them, because if they did not earn money, they will not buy our products. So the customer first, but a lot of customers did not know exactly the new things they need. And we can help them to make more profit, to make things happen. Because just the production process, there is not a big issue to make it more faster. but all the connected things can only be bring to money if they work together. A machine, a laser machine, is very fast, and the transportation behind or before, or what about all the issues with the orders? If there is no order for a customer, our customer, they have no orders for the machine. So the world is more complex, and with all these new ideas, the startups can help us to bring these new ideas to work, because the big companies sometimes are not fast enough, and it's a race. We have to be very fast, and we have to learn from each other. Also, the new companies have to learn from the old economy, because there's a lot of good things on the old economy. It's the value of the things.
Has TRUMPF invested in startups yet, or have you partnered?
We have partners. We are not an investor in startups. We have corporations with startups, because it's not our business model to enrich the startups and sell them again. We want to make profit for our customers, and we need all the new things.
Do you have an example on how a startup added on your business so far?
There are a lot of things. Think on sensors we need. Some great new sensors startups can bring. Sometimes you talk about analytics. There are a lot of analytics tools we need to handle all this data, to make from big data smart data. And there are a lot of new ideas, and there is cooperation with the old business model and the new business model. And if there's a value for both systems, then we have success together.
Marika, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, let me say, I mean, it's probably interesting to go a bit back why we have invented Code N. Because, yes, for many years, the industry started investing into startups. So this is not new, right? That bigger companies need a certain proximity to startups, maybe invest into them, try to learn from them. However, it's not easy to make it work. I mean, intellectually, we all understand that. We all understand the need, but it's actually not easy, because the culture of a mature industry and of a startup company, the business culture, is very, very different. And one reason to invent Code N was to make sure that these companies meet and talk in an environment which per se is inspiring. So, for example, some of our partners organize workshops here with their management and invite startup people and just openly talk in a so-called, let's say, free atmosphere, which is outside not only their facilities, but also, let's say, mentally outside. Because it's about being open, learning from both sides. Again, intellectually, this is all clear. Putting that into practice, not at all easy, because it stops at whether you have unions, you have regulations in the companies, which you need to respect, and the startups are more revolutionary, and they are proud about that. So the reason to have Code N is to exactly bring these two, let's say, worlds together in a different environment for at least 5 days. And we're very proud and happy that actually it does inspire further collaborations, partnerships, etc. So these are the reasons why I think this year we have so many partners, especially from the industry, let's say more traditional industry and not just hip, because they see the value. And the startups obviously see the value, otherwise they wouldn't come, right?
Maybe to add on this point, and using also Frank, customer approach. If you have thought about cooperation and supporting startups in the past, you were mainly financially driven.
Yes.
And this year, Code N is customer driven. So the link really comes from the customer need. And that's why the people connect. That's why the big firms connect with Code N. And this is the difference. And that's, by the way, also in the future, I think the main difference, that the customer is driving the need and will support this type of cooperations.
Well, I think it's ultimately about doing business. I mean, financing is great. Everybody needs money, right, to start a business. But ultimately, it's about finding the right business model, finding the right partner. I mean, that's crucial for being successful, having the right partners. And that's what we provide here. And the financing, yes, can be done as well, but that's honestly pretty standard. So startups would actually not need us, to be honest. they can go for financing themselves and the investors as well. But bringing them together, creating new business models, challenge the existing ones, enhancing them, adding them, amending them, that's what's all about.
Uli, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, I think it's not just about money, because money there's plenty of. At the end, it's all about value for both worlds, the corporate world and the startup world. And I think it's like, if you look at a company like EnBW, with a lot of assets, a history about a generation business model, knowing that we have to reinvent ourselves. There's not that many options on how to develop new business models that account for two things. Value for startups, because we can open up the assets that we have, the customer relationships, the millions of customers, the know-how in the energy field, and combine it with something that the startup world brings to us, the time to market, the creativity, just the out-of-the-box way to look at things that a corporate with 80 years of history would never by itself come to look at. So I think this is what it's all about. I think it's a winning proposition. If you combine flexibility, openness, pragmatism, what do I care from startups, and bring them together in a joint room with corporate assets, and if you can manage that together, leveraging the customer base of a corporate world and the time to market and new ideas about business models of a startups, then you are right on track. And what we find is, if you open up to that kind of philosophy and you get into discussion with startups on the same level and not from looking down, you will be surprised on what traction and what dynamics you all of a sudden get. And that's what our intention is, and that's also, by the way, part of the reasoning why we're here. And many people come and say, what is this, a whole utility? What the heck are you doing here? And the story can be told within 2 minutes, and at the end it brings value to both.
Can you give an example where it worked out? I can give you plenty of examples where
I can give you one right now.
Where founders have been frustrated within 2 weeks, I think, and then, they had their contracts.
One of the areas we're looking into is the smart city, and I think there's another session where we're going to talk about it. You will find 4 or 5 of smart city lights in this hall here, where we are trying to get, with a new service, public Wi-Fi, sensoring, energy management into the cities. We couldn't do it ourselves. So, we bring in our know-how, but the technology, the sensors, the Wi-Fi controller, but also the charging infrastructure is supplied by startups. We have partner startups in Berlin. We have a KIT startup that provides the Wi-Fi antenna, and we are integrating it and using this in our markets that we're good at, through the commodity, but we add value for our partners and customers as well. And so there's plenty of other examples where we need capabilities from startups and add them to the ones that we have.
What's the difference in that context between a supplier, because you never built lamps, I assume, and the startups? You could consider them being a supplier, like you had suppliers for decades. And what's the difference now? What's this change in the
I think
the relationship?
Driven through the Internet of Things. There are many new business models that suppliers traditionally haven't looked at themselves. So if we are looking at Code N competitions or the Startup Bootcamp competitions and programs that we're into, you'll find startup ideas that have understood what is changing in our market. And so it's not a traditional supplier thing, but they have great ideas, great hardware, great technology that fits the future that we're looking at. That does not mean that we're not also working with suppliers. Of course not. Yeah? But we find that given the transformation of our industry and markets, we see many more creative ideas from the startup worlds than from traditional suppliers. And that puts pressure on the supplier world as well.
Okay.
I'd like to offer an additional perspective to what's been said in that regard. I think what was revealing to me today, I was talking to an established company representative who we just walked the halls with, and he said, wow, it's just refreshing to see this because many of these ideas, they seem so naive, yet they're so fresh. And inside of our own walls, they would probably be shut down immediately because the thought is this is not going to be successful or we've tried that before. And we call that the curse of knowledge. And I think that's the advantage of startups. And we call that to have a beginner's mind, to really start, look at things afresh, look at things anew. I lived in Silicon Valley for 15 years, and about the same amount of time I worked here. And I think the biggest difference between the two cultures that I know really well is that we really need to redefine success, and we need to allow a different kind of failure. Failure is important to improve. It's also important to get out with an idea fast, to refine it, to improve it, to open it up to others so open innovation can happen. And it's okay to fail, but better fail fast and improve than not try at all and try to analyze and predict everything, which is impossible in this complex world. And that's, I think, the hardest thing for us to learn. And the established companies can learn it from startups, but that's not enough. They have to act accordingly, like you're describing, and they need to be empowered, they need to have the budget, and they need to have the right technology to move fast and just make it happen. And that's just based on our experience.
What are our strong points?
What are our strong points?
Yeah. In comparison to
Well,
Silicon Valley, what could they learn from us?
Well, the German industry, right, it's doing so well because it's great, especially in the manufacturing sector. You have companies like TRUMPF. They're world leaders. We have many of them. We call them global champions. They're innovators in and of themselves. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't have been so successful. They're the most successfully exporting companies. So there's just great experience, great domain expertise, fantastic quality. And now we just need to add speed and agility and the understanding that the existing models change and shift. So how can you redefine those assets and bring them to tomorrow's customers in the way that the customers expect? Then we're in a great position. So the biggest challenge is we need to do it now.
Mm-hmm. Frank, I mean, referring to that point, I mean, obviously the Internet of Things is considered often in Europe as that's our chance to not start from behind. I mean, we've lost the battle against software, a few exceptions like yours or SAP. We've lost the battle amongst the huge internet companies, the web services, and now when the real world gets connected with the digital world, we're good placed. Is that right? Is that your perspective? Is that?
I don't think
that's what all politicians say, at least.
Yeah, but I don't think you lost the battle. Look at this country. Full employment, it's a rich country, infrastructure is in place, you know. It's not that we lost the battle. You know, let's start there. What we are not leading in consumer digital technologies. That's correctly right. Having said that, we at Accenture, we looked at 2,000 companies and we looked at how smart are the products of the largest 2,000 companies in the world. And then we looked at that by industry. We are clearly leading automotive. There are no smarter cars than the cars manufactured in Germany. We looked at machinery. There are no smarter machineries than the machineries manufactured by people like TRUMPF. We looked at medical devices. There are no smarter medical devices than the machines produced here in the country. We looked at energy, and actually, interesting enough, the energy transformation, the Energiewende, forces us to become a digital leader in energy technology. It's all about decentral production, all about decentral smart meter use control, and in the middle, it's a big software system. So we're going to lead that space. Now, we are leading in smart products. Now we have to connect everything. We have to become a leader in collecting data. And there's a big debate in Germany from you don't collect data, you collect data a little bit, you collect data a lot. We have to find a good pragmatic way how we can collect massive amounts of data on the one side and not violate the personal rights on the other side. We have to solve that. Not in Germany, we have to solve that for Europe, so we have one digital market. But no, we haven't lost the game. No, we are not behind. We are leading the smart products. Let's connect the products, let's connect the data, let's make smart data out of the data we collect, and let's sell that smart data everywhere in the world. Life is good for us. Big opportunity.
Well, how we address the privacy issue then?
You know, we have to find a European consensus, and we looked a lot at why does society look at data privacy in so much different ways. And I don't read a lot about it in the newspapers. But you have to go, and I don't even know the English word, you have to go in the Rechtsgeschichte. You have to look at the history of law. And if you look how the data privacy law in the US emerged, you know, they didn't register the people. In the US in the 1920s, when all that started, the people in the US were moving a lot and they were moving fast. And the small communities basically said, we'll make all the deals public. So if somebody comes into our community and he starts borrowing money from 10 people, by making that public, we protect the community, that little village, from one individual.
Well, yeah, Sweden has the same approach.
That's what the US has done. What we have done, we have Bismarck, and Bismarck said we register every person and the state watches out for you.
Okay, that's
100 years later...
A great status quo analysis, as
no.
100 years are strong in doing, and now you give the advice,
hold on,
please.
slowly. 100 years later, everything has become digital, you know, and the US says, it has been there 100 years that everything was open in the public, and we are used to deal with data which is in the public. And suddenly, we are not used to that, and the data becomes public, and our society, because it's conditioned that way, doesn't react well. That's the correct way for data privacy in Germany, but we cannot assume, based on the law and at the history of law, actually how other societies think about it. Now, we want to export our products and the smart data around our products around the whole world. If we think we can export our German view, which has its own history, maybe that will not be the right way. I think we should start and lead to find a consensus in Europe, and then we can look forward.
Okay. What is it?
It's not only about the consensus. I think we always pick out the things which are hindering us to do things. I think we have to deal with the let's say, governance we have, and we have to find the answers to this governance for one important point, that the people trust us while dealing with the data on one side, and second, the firms who are in the Internet of Things trust their own, let's say, systems, that their properties, their advanced, let's say, information is covered in the right way. So it's not about debating the law case, it's really just debating how can we make sure that we are fulfilling the expectations of customers. And then we'll find a way to handle with this. By the way, it's only Germany maybe who has the problems. There are much more countries outside with a different say, and we have to find answers for all those countries. So I'm not happy about, let's say, legislation here, but I think we have to deal with it as it is in the moment and support to change it.
You can anonymize.
Actually, I personally believe that, and history has shown that, every limitation, if you call it a limitation, actually just make sure that you have to be even more innovative. You have to produce maybe then a better service, a better technology to adjust, for example, to the different data privacy interpretations in the world. I think we should not talk about what is a limitation which stops us, but what is a limitation which actually makes us even better. And when you said whether Germany is behind, I would actually agree with Frank and say Industry 4.0 is probably should be the wave which Germany is driving, especially because Germany is leading in all those industry products. So if the German industry start understanding what their customer wants and understand the customer centricity concept, if then the service industries behind, like financial services, understand what their customers need in order to do that, that is a wave which has to be driven by Germany. It should. I think it would be embarrassing if we don't. Because we have everything here, and when you see how much the German industry is engaged and how much the German industry has understood that IT is not just accounting and do a P&L at the end of the day and automate reporting, but that it can really make a difference in their competition. I personally believe that Germany will drive that. Not only should, it will. Basically because here's the industry, full stop.
Who's building the IT clouds for the machine cloud, the IT platform?
Sorry, all of them.
No.
Well,
I understand that. But who's right now, when you analyze this is correct?
Well, actually,
who's building the platforms for the IT solutions for the machinery? I know your company and all the other German innovative machinery companies, industrial production companies, are very well doing by putting sensors and building even more sophisticated machines, but who's building the platforms? Is it
But if there is a need, the German industry is also able to build these platforms. We, on the TRUMPF side, are our cloud provider for our customers. We have a cloud platform. We did not do the basics. We take standards, put them intelligent together, and make a solution with a big value. So the German industry is able to do this. We can handle the smart data on our smart products. We can have secure connections. And we also are able to make software. It's not true only the American can build software systems. The machinery software is as complex like a cloud is. So think about this. I don't think it's only the big things that Google do or Microsoft do. We have a lot of small things, and we are able to connect them with each other. Google is not this flexible in the past. But I think the German industry is more flexible to do all this because we have all the people here, we have all the needs here to operate all these things, and we have great ideas. And we believe on these ideas. And there are values in this. And we will find all these models to bring it live.
But the question is, and I would add to your question, it's not only who has the cloud data center, who has the platforms with the connectivity for the smart products, who collects the data, who has the right to transform data into services.
Yeah. Is it Siemens or Salesforce? That's the question.
Here on Cebit, I think Salesforce is clearly playing, and I think that's good. Here on Cebit, we'll hear announcement between SAP and Siemens to do that. And quite frankly, there's a lot of investment involved, so you need to have some big financial muscles. But I would say, let's go into the race. And good competition will help actually to speed up the race. So we should not say, this is not invented in Germany, don't use it. On the flip side, we should say, we use all the technologies which help us to build the platforms. We should say we use all the technologies which help us to collect the data in the right ethical way and translate the data into smart services. If you're a technology provider and you can help our business models, you are invited.
Uli first.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I would agree, and maybe to add on that, if you go by our booth, you will see a brain and a colorful brain, and people say, what the heck is that? And the answer is, we're trying to become the operating system of the Energiewende, which is nothing else than building an ecosystem with a lot of IT, with a lot of analytics capabilities that provide a platform to utilize data and make value for the customer. So I think the question is not who is going to. I think the question is more when are we within Germany have the first visible models, corporations, startup corporations that because we have understood, I think all here have understood that this is the way to go, and there's a great chance for Germany under the roof of Industry 4.0, utilize our engineering capacity, our engineering history, and transform this into the software digital world. And that's happening right now. And I think, beware world, if we get our act together, I mean, we've proven this many times, then we make things happen. So we, for our part, we see it exactly the same way for the transformation of utilities. We will be more of an IT service provider 5 to 10 years from now with a little energy-specific know-how than ever before.
So you see, Codan is all about transforming the German industry into the IT industry, right?
You've done a good job, haven't you?
That's good, right?
Excellent. And now comes the American one. You've tried hard, but what the Welly says. Yeah, we want them, right?
It's the German-American voice.
Okay.
From our perspective, it's not, is it Salesforce or Siemens, as you provocatively ask. It's actually Salesforce and Siemens, and it's Salesforce and TRUMPF, and it's Salesforce and others from our perspective. Because what's made Salesforce so successful is that for the past, now almost 16 years, what we focused on is deliver our customers fast innovation so that they can use us to implement their transformation in the fastest way possible, yet fully retain the IT. So they can focus on innovation and not on infrastructure. due to the success of companies transforming themselves in that way, we've become successful and are a player across the world, including, Germany. We go to market here in a German subsidiary of Salesforce. We're investing heavily in this country, creating a lot of labor also, and helping a lot of companies innovate faster. It's like a conveyor belt, right? You can run so hard by building the conveyor belt yourself, one of those belts you use at the airport, or you can run right on it, and we provide the thing that makes you run faster, right? So that's what's made us successful. That's what we offer to the industry here. That's where we're collaborating with many here so they can move faster and be more successful.
I'm going to add a quote, okay? Forecasts are always difficult, particularly when they concern the future. It's by Mark Twain. Marika, since you're sort of the host on this stage, we'll have our time is up, but just for a closing statement, in 5 years from now, we all can't foresee the future, but we can do forecasts. In what ways will the Internet of Things have changed the way businesses conduct their value chain, their value creation?
Done with the question?
Yeah.
Good. So, what we definitely will see is, and the colleagues from TRUMPF and also from EnBW already have said it, I do believe that the separation between we're industry and produce products, and here's the IT industry and produce IT systems, this will completely vanish. It will become, industry companies will become more IT, and IT will understand more from the industry. I also believe that we're going to see much more, European context, but also business models which do have to address the different regulations, the different jurisdictions, with actually customer centricity business models, which per se makes it extremely complex. But the one who masters that, the one who can really conquer that, actually has no limitation anymore. And therefore, I do believe that we're going to see much more, as we call it, hidden champions in the future, who actually drive on that. And whether the cloud comes from the US or the cloud comes from a European company or from a German industry or from an IT company, that's just basic. It's just below, it's just to support that. But I think we will see a lot of blend of the various industries. I think Industry 4.0 basically brings it together, industry and IT, finally.
Gentlemen, madam, thank you very much for a very live debate.